All right, off we go. I told you the chicken legs are out. I apologise now. All right, we'll start flexing, extending the spine. So let's start with the feet hip distance apart. Let's soften the knees, take the arms forwards and up, then bend at the elbows. So doing that kind of hidden prayer behind your head and lean back into the thumbs. And then forwards again. So slicing through the air, bend in the knees. This time take the arms all the way behind you. If it's available to you, clasp the hands and get that chest opener. Go easy on the hamstrings. We've got a few rounds. Carving through the air. Again, hands meeting in that spine extension, lengthening up. And deepening the breath. The kind of waterfall movement forwards and backwards, but just adding on that extra clasp in the forward fold and hidden prayer, standing tall, leaning back. Last 2 times. When you're clasping the hands behind the back, try having the other thumb on top each time, alternating. It's really good for the brain to do the opposite of what we habitually use. One last time, and then we'll think about stretching in that circular movement. So we go side to side, lateral flexion of the spine, and we're just continuing to warm up the spine, the rest of the body. So standing tall, roll the shoulders back and down. For this one, we're taking the legs wider apart. We'll start just with the head, so the nose, drawing a circle on the wall in front of you. Let's make sure the jaw's nicely soft. Shoulders heavy, arms relaxed, just feeling that yummy stretch around the neck. We can sway with the shoulders and the hips, so there's a nice fluid movement. We're gradually going to add on the arms, so let the arms flow in the same direction, stretching for the ceiling, for the side wall, for the floor. We can start to add a gentle bend into the knee to reach even further. We're working into the thigh, brushing the floor, rebuilding. So we're in the same direction for now. Chest open wide, stretching side to side. Once more in this direction, so make it your biggest, leaning, a big bend in the knee, chest wide open, cartwheeling the hands down. Transference of weight to the other side, bursting open here, and let's take it to the other side. Smaller movement initially, and then gradually carving through the air, involving the whole body. So we're gripping the floor with the feet. Last couple in this direction. All right, so after the next one, we'll keep the legs wide and still thinking about toning, waking up the side of the body. Think preparing for Trikonasana, arms open wide. And let's initially just think about reaching for the side wall, just so you feel that working to the side of the waist, shoulders are down, chin's tucked in towards the neck, and to the other side. So as if we're gliding, the hands on tabletops either side. Feeling the rib cage gliding side to side. We're setting up for a triangle, pointing towards the left. So let's set up the feet. Left toes turn to face the left wall. The right heel lifts slightly and send the heel away, just so that this right hip can dial down a little bit. Arms still parallel to the floor, shoulders back and down. Now we're going to toggle between Trikonasana, triangle, so floating to the left, chest open wide, and then into peaceful warrior. So return to the standing position, left knee bends, left hand supports the head, and then taking it the other way. Elbow up to the ceiling, grip the floor with the feet. Reach into Trikonasana. So let's aim for 4 or 5 rounds. Maybe it's just 2 and you'll take your time. Carving through the air, Try to imagine if you were standing against a wall so the head doesn't drop forwards. Trying to occupy space. So in the Trikonasana, the top hip is dialing down. We have a deep inner thigh stretch and we're reaching through to the fingertips so we're not collapsing in that lower shoulder. Reaching overhead, holding the head and resetting the head, maybe looking up to the ceiling. Last time each side, and then we'll jump the feet together to reset before we go on to the other side. So this reaching to the ceiling, otherwise it's very easy to lose space in the shoulders. Reach up, lengthen the neck. And last time in the peaceful warrior, head into the hand, diving into that lunge, elbow pointing up to the ceiling. And then release. Let's jump the feet together, kick back a couple of times, and then we'll set up for the other side. You're feeling a little bit warm on that left side of the body. Legs nice and wide. Start with now the right toes out to the right wall. Come up onto the ball of the left heel and let the heel dive to the side. Arms parallel. Reach for the right, and then come into your triangle. Ease into it the first time. And then right hand, cradle ahead, head back. Taking that dive, the bent knee tracking over the toes to try to work those inner thigh muscles, finding length, maybe look up at the ceiling. Might encourage you to find more of a lift in the elbow. Throughout, finding space between the shoulder blades by reaching from one set of fingertips into the other. Each time reaching as if for something beyond the fingertips. Jaw nice and soft. Feel this chest opening here. Strong into the legs, right to the feet. Active toes. Last couple of rounds. Last set. Chest open wide. Okay, from our peaceful warrior, we'll again jump the feet together and kick back a couple of times. So just kick back where we've been stretching the back of the knees. Okay, next, legs wide again, but probably not quite so wide, into our goddess squat. Let's now work and open in the shoulders, arms in a V. Take a deep breath in. I've got my feet slightly turned out. And as you breathe out, feel like you're opening the knees away from each other and come into a W with the elbows down towards the floor, backs of the hands reaching the wall behind. Breathe in and stand tall, reaching overhead. Deep breath in, hands meeting if you can. And then this time, we're in a W and we're reaching into a T, straightening the legs, straightening the arms. Feel the shoulder blades come together, chin still tucked. And now into a mirrored capital L. Sink down through the hips, through the tailbone, elbows into the waist, palms are facing up, thumbs reaching for the wall behind, working on those external rotators. All right, let's stand tall. Squeeze the glutes. Deep breath in, breathing out, come into a W shape with the arms. Elbows point to the floor, thumbs to the back wall. See where you can go. And then stretching into a T, into those mirrored L's. Thumbs reaching the back wall. Try to find length along the spine. Last round. A big V shape here. Sink down through the tailbone to a W. Head, back of the head in line with the back of the pelvis. Let's stretch the legs, the arms out wide. Find some tone in the abs here. And then last time, mirrored L's. So thumbs opening towards that back wall. Brilliant. Let's step the legs together, give them a little shake. I'm going to take you through 2 exercises where I want you to have more awareness into the quads, the inner thighs, outer thighs and the hands. So we have already woken up a little bit, but let's really get the brain thinking about those. So the first one will be with a close chair. So let's get the knees together. Feel your inner thighs switching on as you squeeze your knees together. Next, as we squeeze the knees together, see if you can find some length in the tailbone and send the hips low until we get that work into the quads and into the glutes. So firing up on lots of sides, the inner thighs, your quads, your core holding you in, and your glutes strong. So we just gently brush those quads, inner thighs, the glutes, so the brain has that awareness. And we're going to take a side to side prayer twist. A little bit of fatigue is fine, but if you need to take a break, please do. Hands in prayer, stretch overhead, deep breath in, finding length. As you breathe out, sink the knees down and together, inner thighs. Try to still be able to see your toes, send the hips back, and we'll take the left elbow to the outside of the right knee. So turning, go right to the end of that exhalation until your navel is turning over to the right. We'll breathe in, standing tall. Try and keep that activation through the inner thighs and the quads. And as we breathe out, we're going to the other side. Right elbow to the outside of the left knee. Now we're sinking back into the heels. So we're working the inner thighs, the quads, and the glutes. Now we're using the strength in the core to add on that spinal twist. Work at your own pace, but try to go at a nice slow pace where we can squeeze. Keep reminding yourself, inner thighs, squeeze the knees together. Sink back into the heels as if you're going to sit in a low chair. Going to the end of that out breath. So the head, neck, shoulders, ribs all spiraling round. Okay, we're feeling inner thighs, your quads, they're a little bit warmer. Sinking a little bit lower, we'll get that stretch and extra work into the glutes. See if you can maybe sink a little bit lower for one last set. And then we'll take a movement to make sure the hamstrings are fully aware we need them. So last time each side. Inner thighs. See if you can now weave in a little bit of pelvic floor. Go deep into those core muscles. Pull in, pull up, twist, squeeze the knees. Last side. Deep breath in. Shoulders down. Taking a twist. Inner thighs, quadriceps, gluteals. And then come center. And again, shake out the legs. All right, so that's inner thighs, fronts of the thighs. Now let's think about the outer thighs and the hamstrings. Coming back into that prayer position, it just gives us that awareness of opening the chest, pressing the thumbs into the chest bone. We're going to come into a squat with the feet hip distance apart. Not as deep this time, just a softening of the knees. I think outer hip, place the weight into the left leg, and just as if the dog cocking its leg, lift out to the side. Return, standing tall, soften both knees, and then over to the other side. Try to lift the ankle as well as the knee. Now there's an optional add-on here. When we come into that cocked leg lift, we can adjust the weight back and come into warrior 3. So if I do it this way, I'm still pressing the thumbs into the chest. Chest comes forward, stretch the leg back and return. So just an optional one. Soften both knees, legs cocked. As if you're drawing an arc with the leg, send the weight backwards and forwards, counterbalance. Warrior 3, briefly to standing. Once more each side, we're feeling that work into the outer hip, going slowly enough. We can feel that lift, maybe a little pause, and sending the weight back. If you're working on your warrior 3, see if you can pause long enough to dial the toes down. It will almost feel like you're rolling the hip in, toes to the floor before returning. And let's make it the last side. And then let's see if you feel any difference in your Tadasana mountain pose. Feel that outer hip. And then feel that loading on the hamstring as we send the leg back. Toes down to the floor, neck long, and then to standing. So we deserve a break, but it should feel quite strong. Let's have the big toes together, arms by your side. You can close your eyes, I'll just verbally cue. Let's lift the toes and feel the heels and then the balls of the foot evenly pressing into the floor. So it might take some opening and closing of the arches of the feet. Just feel that connection through the feet, the balls of the feet and the heels. Now press the toes down. Try and lengthen and spread the toes and grip the floor. So we have strength through the whole of the foot. Now, lightly drawing down and together through the big toes, can we start to feel where we've been working the inner thighs? At the same time, try and find some length in the tailbone and feel that slight tuck in the tailbone. So we're starting to lengthen and feel some work in the quadriceps. So we have the inner thighs with a strong work through the feet, the quadriceps. And now try and imagine some weight that you're pressing into the outer thighs to lightly engage the outer thighs. And then feel like the backs of your thighs are pressing against something. So feel some engagement in the backs of the legs. Shoulders back and down. And take 2 breaths here to feel length. As you breathe in, press down through the feet. Find space along the spine, right up into the crown of the head. So we're now being the tallest we can be, immovable. So no pushing from any angle, any side can move us. We're planted firmly. We've got those roots growing through the feet, stretching into the fingertips. Try to feel equal work across the chest and between the shoulder blades. So feel that strength around the body. Navel to spine, chin's tucked in towards the neck, jaw soft. Feel how actively we can stand. One more breath here. If we gently rock forwards towards the toes and then back into the heels, just to the point where we're nearly going to fall back. Feel that activation in the legs, about how much longer we feel. And then soften and shake out. So hopefully you'll maybe think about some of those points when you next come to your Tadasana. We're going to come down to the floor. So I'm going to lower the camera all the way down. So you can take a roll down through the spine. And we'll meet in child pose. So just for a moment, taking a child pose, reaching into the fingertips and letting the forehead rest on the floor. We can gently rock from one side to the other, just easing out the hips, knees, any tension in the spine. Now, let's work it into the wrists. So much of what we do, particularly in yoga, is pressure on the wrists in one particular position. So slowly come up to all fours, and we're going to take the wrists in different positions. So I think if you think about how we pad through the feet when we're walking, let's try and apply that to the hands, the wrists. So throughout, let's try and find some tone in the core. And we're going to lift, peel one hand up, and then place it down with the heels of the hand in, fingers out to the side. Other hand, walking through the fingers, walk through the fingers, heels down. So we're going side to side, peeling off, and then the fingers towards the knees. Place the hands down. Fingers towards the knees, place the heel down. And back again. So taking your time, feel some strength. We want to build up the strength in the fingertips so that when we're in our down dogs, our planks, we're not just resting on the wrist joint. We have some strength right through to the fingertips. See if we can turn the fingers in towards each other. Now we can back off and put less weight into the fingers by sitting back on the heels. Let's just work through the fingers once more, all the way around. And then we are going to sit back on the heels and circle out the wrists. So whilst we're not going to do sun salutations today, we're just going to work on that step forward and back, working on landing as light as a feather. Sometimes stepping forwards and backwards can be the hardest part of sun salutations. When you're ready, tuck your toes under and let's just circle those wrists and give them a rest. While you're taking a break, let me explain the next one. So we're placing the hands on the floor, slightly turning out the fingers, so we get that external rotation of the shoulders, so the eyes of the elbows are pointing forwards. We're going to lift into a down dog, and then we're going to take turns to step forward with one foot, and then step back, and then the other. So we're going from down dog to like half a malasana squat. Don't worry how far forward the foot comes. Just feeling a gentle flow. If you've managed to step to the side of the foot, the hand, see if you can pause and slow down that placing of the foot on the floor. If we need to take some intensity out, we'll lower the knees. We can even come onto fists if that's more comfortable for your wrists. And we'll step the foot forwards and switch. So wherever you are, unlike me, make sure you've got padding under your knees. And gradually over time, with practice, we can start to feel a little bit more strength and control and slow down that transition of stepping forward and then lightly tapping down. So whether you're on your knees or toggling between your down dog and half squat, let's have one more on each side. Enjoy that hip flexor stretch here. And then we're lying on our backs. Okay, that's the last side. Let's step back, lower the knees, and let's just come onto our backs and hug the knees into the chest. A little rock on the spine. And then we're coming onto our sides, and we'll circle the leg from the hip right down to the toe. So lying, if you're opposite me, lie on your right hand side, point the toes, stack the legs, and we're going to lift the top leg and draw a small circle. Oh, I nearly dropped. So your top fingers for support. Let's try and stabilize the upper body. Now, as though we're circling that hip joint, but also reaching into the toes, we're going to go for roughly 6 in this direction and 6 in the other. So slow is better. I think it's possibly a Taoist saying, the slower you go, the faster you get there. So I think that's a good one for this. Shuffle down. When you've done roughly 6, let's change direction. Active right down to the leg. So if we lead with the extremities there, if we think about a distal lead in this movement, we're firing up the whole chain of muscles. So be active, reach as though you're lengthening the leg with each circle. Finding a little bit of a pelvic tilt here. So we're curling the pubic bone up towards the ribs. There's no bend in the lower spine. And let's rest that knee on the floor in front. Pat out the hip if you need to. We're onto the inner thigh of the lower leg. This time we're curling the toes up towards the kneecap. You can press your fingers into the inner thigh to see it's working. And we squeeze into the thigh and lift the leg. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Adding that resistance. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Brilliant. We're on to the other side. Let's go for those circles. Holding the head in the hands or resting the head down. Feel that long line. Let's point the toes, lifting the top leg, and let's begin to circle. So if we remember to think about the toes trying to reach long to the side wall, try and find that engagement right down the leg, some engagement in your abs, shoulder jaw relaxed. Stabilize the upper body. And after about 6, we change your direction. So take the leg back. Feel that hip extension in this position. We rarely move the leg in that way, so it's usually the hardest part of the circle. You're doing well. Stretch through to the toes. And even the leg that's on the floor, press the leg into the floor. It'll give you more of a lift in the top leg. I've lost count, so we'll call that 6. Press your top leg on the floor, pass out the hip, and let's move on to the lower leg. So we're curling the toes up to your kneecap. Add a bit of resistance here, and press, press, press for 10. Try and have the toes and the kneecap pointing forward. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, nearly there. Extra little push. 2, and 1. You've done it. Roll onto your backs. Hug the knees into the chest. Have a little rock on the spine. Place the left foot on the floor, right leg up to the ceiling. Hold at the back of the leg, and let's find a gentle hamstring stretch as we point and flex through the toes. Chin's tucked into the chest. Start to slow down the breath, and let's circle the ankle. Check in with the rest of the body. Are we clenching anywhere we don't need to? Both directions with those ankles. And then we'll switch legs. Gently guide in. Try and take the bend out to the knee if you can, but a bend is fine. As long as you're getting a stretch in the back of the leg. Point and flex. See if you can spread the toes and create some space in between every toe before we move on to circles. Both directions. And then with the knees into the chest, feet to the floor, just place where you can brush the backs of the ankles, shoulders in close, chin tucked, and then peel the spine, rolling up through the spine, getting that lovely stretch in the quads where we're working, all the way up, chest coming up to the chin, squeeze, try and keep the knees the same distance apart, so the knees will either want to flare up or cave in. Try to keep that long line. Try to feel the tailbone pointing up towards the backs of the knees. And we're rolling down. Now, option to take a figure 4 here to stretch out the glutes and the external rotators, or take this position in the lifted bridge here. So either way, we've got the right ankle on the left thigh. We can get the hips even, and you get a really intense work into the top of this hip if we lift, trying to lengthen through the tailbone, hips level, tilting the pelvis to lift the hips right up to the ceiling, open out the right thigh, and then if you're in a bridge lift, lowering down through the spine and switching legs, or we're taking the figure 4 in this position. So either with the hips down or lifted. Main thing is we're opening the hip, knee pointing to the side wall. Use the heel of your hand to promote that opening in the hip. So make sure the face, the jaw, everything else is nice and happy and smiling. If you're in the bridge lift, on this second side, slowly lower down one best foot at a time. Release the leg. Place the feet as wide as the mat or wider, and let the knees drop to one side, and then up and over to the other. So a few windshield wipers each side. Feel that internal rotation of the hip. Stretch for the hip flexors. Once more each side, and then we're going to finish with a full body stretch. All right, so your final step. Stretch the legs out, fingers overhead, arms straight, reaching into the fingers and toes. Take that stretch across the body. So the right heel reaching away, the right fingers reaching overhead, and then the other side. Find some length, regain any length in the spine we may have lost. Here we can arch the spine. And then melt the arms down, knees into the chest. Your last little rock on the spine, and you've done it. Well done. Great, great, great.